Welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm Hannah Blackwell, and today I have a very exciting video planned. I'm going to be collaborating with Crystal's Bookish Life to do a bookish taste test. So this video has been in the works for a little bit, but it has been a lot of fun. I actually was talking to Crystal and I was like, listen, let's do a collaboration. I love your taste. I feel like I really have similar taste to Crystal, but I wanted to test it out. And I really had some great recommendations for Crystal that I really thought that she would like. I hope she liked them. So I'm very nervous and excited to watch her video and find out what she thought of the books I recommended for her. I love her content. I love her channel. She's been around for a very long time on romance booktube and just booktube in general. If you are not subscribed to Crystal, but you like my content, like what are you doing? No, really. You need to go subscribe to her because she really has wonderful taste. She reads a lot of romance, but she also reads other genres as well, just like me. She reads fantasy too, and she reads fantasy romance, historical romance, paranormal romance, and everything in between. She reads some contemporary too, which you guys know I don't really read much contemporary, but she has a lot of wonderful recommendations. Actually, a lot of the books that I've read have been because of her recommendations. So please go check her channel out if you haven't already. So Crystal and I are doing this collaboration video. She's recommended me some books. I've recommended her some books, and we're going to find out if we have similar taste. As you guys know, I do not do vlogs. Now, there will be a way in the future for you guys to watch some vlogs from me. I will get into that in another video. But this video is actually going to be wrap-up style. So I actually read 4 books from Crystal's recommendation list, okay? She recommended me a lot of books that I was really interested in, actually. I'm not going to get into all of the books that she recommended me. It's actually been a little bit. I don't have the list right now, but also, like, they're all good books that I really want to get to. So on this list, I have an alien romance, I have a fantasy romance, and I have 2 historical romances as well. So I'm going to start with the alien romance here. So I'm not sure which order I read these in, but I'm going to talk about this alien romance first, and that was Choosing Theo by Victoria Avalon. I actually really had a wonderful time with this book. So this is an alien romance, like I said, and we have Jade. She is kidnapped from Earth. She doesn't know where she is. She's being kind of like held captive on this spaceship. But then she escapes and drops down to an unknown planet. She doesn't know where she is or what's going on. Someone is basically being like trying to trade for her and try to take her, but he doesn't. She basically is like, okay, if someone's trying to buy me, I don't want to be with them either. You know what I'm saying? So she ends up escaping, running away, and she gets to a city. This all happens very early on, so none of it is a spoiler, but she gets to like a major city and is helped out by the government there. And they basically go through what happens there when someone from another planet ends up there, how they deal with it, basically a code between planets who all know about alien life, and how they deal with the situation with aliens from planets who don't know about alien life and how they have to deal with that. So they can't send her back to Earth because they have decided that it's best to let planets who are not that far evolved yet evolve on their own so they don't influence them. So they basically decided to help her out. They're like, okay, you can stay here for a year. That's the rule. You have to stay here for a certain amount of time. And in this society, you have to get married. And she's very confused by this concept, you know, understandably. But basically, I guess there's something going on with their society where they're not making enough females. And so there's not enough females for all of the males. And also there's an issue with procreation where people are having a lot of difficulty conceiving. So she doesn't have to do anything with this person. Like, she just has to marry them. And then that way she has someone also to watch out for her, teach her about society there, teach her about a lot of things she just doesn't have any clue about because she, until now, didn't even know there was life on other planets. So she's not required to do anything. This person has to treat her with the utmost respect. You know, she's not going to be taken advantage of, basically. It's very interesting to see how this society has developed, and I guess this society used to be kind of similar to Earth, but it has changed. I thought this book was really, really interesting. I thought that it had a lot of interesting things to say about society, about sex, about gender, about what's right versus what's wrong, about social norms and how they evolve. It really had a lot of interesting things to say, and I thought that was really cool. I also thought that the romance was very enjoyable. This was kind of like an enemies to lovers, because when our heroine chooses Theo, that's why it's called Choosing Theo, she basically gets her pick. She can pick any of these guys that she wants to marry, and these guys kind of have to put on a whole dog and pony show to try to win her affection. And she ends up going with Theo, who didn't even try because he thinks it's a joke. No one likes Theo there, like physically, because he has these scars all over his body. But to her, these scars actually look like tattoos, and she finds him very attractive. But in his society, perfection is like of the utmost importance. Like, they try to get rid of her tattoo and one of her scars, and she chooses to keep them. It's a whole different societal standard of beauty. And so she chooses Theo, but he thinks that she's like a spy, and she couldn't have possibly chosen him. So he's just not the nicest to her starting out, and it's a very interesting dynamic, and it was a fun read. It was really interesting. I'm looking forward to continuing on in the series. I have seen mixed reviews of how the series continues in terms of a lot of people believe that it goes downhill, or at least hits a slump before it goes back up. Also heard some people really enjoying other books in the series. I am thinking about doing a video that is kind of about books that have a message to be said, because I do honestly feel like in our society a lot of times, or at least maybe just in the books that I'm reading, a lot of books aren't saying anything. A lot of romance isn't saying anything. A lot of horror, a lot of fantasy is not saying something. But a lot are still. And I feel like that used to be a more common trait, but we're seeing it less. And I love it. I love a message, okay? Yeah, I've been thinking about doing a video like that, so we'll see. Let me know if you would like that, okay? Let me know down below in the comments. Okay, so moving on. Ooh, I actually forgot. I actually have 5 books. What was I thinking? Anyway, also, my brain is not working. Okay, I wanted to say first, I gave Choosing Theo 5 stars. I don't think that I had said that. I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads, 4.5 technically. So my personal rating, it didn't all the way hit 5 stars, but I rounded it up on Goodreads. A second book that I read was Forbidden by Beverly Jenkins, and that is a historical romance, and it's set in the Western United States. This was was this my first? No, I've read one other American historical, but this was my first Western historical, and Beverly Jenkins, I've heard nothing but amazing things about her, so I was very excited to get to this book. Now, this is about a heroine who is going up north to try to start working as a chef. So she is going to, I think Northern California is where she's trying to get to. And I think she's somewhere in the Utah area. I could be wrong, but she's going northwest to try to get a job as a chef, and she is trying to get there however she can. So this means like taking odd jobs, hitching, driving people, whatever. And in the process, she gets duped by this dude. He ends up taking her for all of her money and leaving her for dead in the desert. So basically the worst situation. He is just disgusting, and he basically says, like, unless you want to do me some favors, wink, wink, nod, nod, then you can go and you can give me all of your money. So yeah, he leaves her stranded in the desert because she's not about to do that. This takes place during Reconstruction, and our heroine is now, she's left in the desert. And she ends up being picked up by this guy, and he saves her, takes her back to his place, which is kind of like not really a great situation for her. He doesn't want to ruin her reputation. So she's only there for a short period of time before he gets her moved on somewhere else so she can stay with this woman, basically. But he and her have this attraction. Now, she doesn't know this, but he is actually what was called passing. So he is biracial, and he decides to pass as white so that he can try to make changes for the African American community through politics as a white man, though. And so they don't know, like, the community there doesn't know he is actually Black because he is passing. So she doesn't know either, and they kind of have this forbidden attraction. He is also technically engaged to someone that he does not like, and she ends up doing odd jobs there in town, kind of still with the plan to continue moving on, but trying to make some money to get by in the meantime. So she starts doing some cooking, and people really like her food. So this also has the aspect of a foodie romance, which I thought was really cool because I love foodie romances. I love cooking. So once again, this was a book that had a lot of deeper messages about society, about racism, about food bringing people together, which I really liked too, about culture, and about politics. And it's just, it had so many messages. The romance was very sweet. If you like a forbidden romance, this is a really great one to try out. I gave this 4 stars. The only reason I did not give it a higher rating, because looking back, it's like, it feels like it should get a higher rating, but I don't know how to describe it. I didn't think that it was spicy enough for what the story was. Does that make sense? I needed more physical connection between the characters. I feel like it didn't fully go there when it came to the romance, but the other aspects were amazing. I'm going to apologize if the lighting is kind of weird throughout this video because I'm seriously having issues with it. I don't know what to say. Like, the weather doesn't know what it's doing. We've got 2 hurricanes just like hanging out, not really sure what they're going to do near us. And I don't know if that's like affecting weather weird, but I don't know. Okay, so far I have really enjoyed everything I've read. Next, we have another historical, and this was Romancing the Duke by Tessa Dare. This book was flipping amazing. I'm just going to say it right out. This is the first 5 stars I've ever given Tessa Dare. I have read now 3 of her books, I believe. No, 4. I've read 4 of her books. Wait. Yes, I've read 4 of her books. I think this is the first and only 5 stars I've given her. It's usually like a 4, 4.5 range, but this book was flipping amazing. Okay, Beauty and the Beast, Gothic vibes, Gothic castle, a wandering band of cosplayers. Not to mention, you have the classic Tessa Dare humor and Tessa Dare spice. So it took it to another level because her spice and her humor generally always get her books at least 4 stars for me. But because we had these really amazing side characters and some Gothic vibes, it was a 5-star book. It was 100% a 5-star book. I loved it. This is the first book in the Castles Ever After series, and this is about our heroine who is left destitute after her father passes away. He was a writer, and she is just kind of screwed at this point. But then she hears that she has been left an inheritance from her long-lost godfather of sorts, and he's left her a castle. Well, she doesn't know this yet, but he's left her a castle. She doesn't know what she's inherited. She gets there, and she's expecting to meet basically the arbitrator of the will, I believe. Is that the right word? I don't know. But she thinks she's meeting this person who's going to tell her what she's been bequeathed. But instead she runs into a grumpy duke. And they have to get along from there. There is grumpy sunshine vibes. There's hate to love. There's undeniable attraction. There is Gothic vibes. I mean, like, we're talking like bats swooping out of the castle. Like, seriously, super Gothic. There just so happens to be some really fun side characters in this book that really make it. They really, really do. So this book had everything, to be honest, and I want to read it again. I really do. I want to read it again. It's definitely my favorite Tessa Dare, and I was so excited that Crystal told me to read it. So these 2 books I've actually discussed a bunch recently. The first one is A Heart of Blood and Ashes. I read this because of Crystal, and it was amazing. This is a epic fantasy. It's historical fantasy, medieval inspired fantasy, and this is a true enemies to lovers. I discussed this book on my enemies to lovers recommendations list. Also discussed this on my recent fantasy romance recommendations list. I will also have that linked down below. I adored it. I thought it was so great. I gave this 4 stars. Now, the only reason I did not give this book 5 stars was because there wasn't enough transformation in the hero, in my opinion. He did not do enough groveling, and I really wanted more groveling. This was true enemies to lovers, but more on his side than hers, but they hated each other. So our heroine is injured. She's been injured by her own family members for trying to escape and for helping his mother as well. Now, he doesn't really know this, but she's kind of on his side in a way because they both want revenge on her family. Her family killed his parents. And so, yeah, he is not a fan of her, not a fan of them. He thinks that she is actually out to get him too. He doesn't trust her when she says she's not. And he's really freaking mean to her, and she doesn't appreciate that. There is also undeniable attraction between these two as well, but they do decide to have a marriage of convenience because they think that it will help them in their plot for revenge. So that's how they get together. And yeah, it's true enemies to lovers, and a lot, I would say a good amount of miscommunication. Now, I hate miscommunication, which is also why it was a 4-star. Because I thought it lasted too long, and I thought that it was kind of his fault, in my opinion. And then I felt like he didn't grovel enough for that situation. So you'll understand when you read it. But yeah, I wanted more groveling. But other than that, this was a 4 stars. Still way recommendable. The world building was wonderful. The vibes were awesome. I loved the true enemies to lovers feels. And the heroine is probably one of my favorite heroines of all time. I loved her. It didn't really meet the 5 stars for me because if a romance is going to be 5 stars, then like I have to be obsessed with both of the love interests. And I just never formed that obsession over this hero. I thought he was kind of a douche. But still enjoyed, still recommend. Because especially that is a personal thing. I feel like how much you love a hero is such a personal thing, or a heroine. So I still recommend it because other than that issue that I do have with the hero, the book is mostly perfection. Finally, speaking of a hero and a love for a hero and a love for a heroine and a couple, and we had to finish off with this book. This book is a 6-star. I don't give a lot of 6 stars. It's kind of my own little thing. I know some other people do give 6 stars as they're like they have a 6-star rating system. And I don't really have a 6-star rating system. I just have a few books that I write 6 stars on Goodreads because they're that amazing. But I probably only give out maybe like 5-6 stars a year. I don't know. And this was one. Again, The Magic by Lisa Kleypas, my new all-time favorite historical romance. This is a second chance romance between childhood friends to lovers. They had this forbidden relationship. Our heroine is from a upper-class noble family, and our hero is a servant, so they have this class difference, and it's forbidden. They get caught when they are like teenagers, and many years later, our hero returns having made something of himself in America, and now he's rich and he can marry basically whoever because he's super desirable, and he's out for revenge for reasons I won't say, but they have this mutual pining, this extreme mutual pining. If you like mutual pining, you have to read this book. You have to. It's amazing. It's amazing. So it's like a mutual pining, but also with this grudge between them. Like they have this grudge and this forbidden nature and all of this extreme angst while having just the best romance. And I loved it. I loved it so much. It's just an all-time favorite. And you know when you love a book so much that you just can't discuss it to the justice it deserves? That's how I feel right now. I'm just gushing. Like, I don't know. I just flipping adore it. Please read it. If you haven't, please read it. This is definitely my all-time favorite historical romance. I love it. That's all I can say. Thank you, Crystal. So, as we can tell, I didn't give any books for this project lower than 4 stars. We had 2 4 stars, 2 5 stars, and a 6-star read. Obviously, I really like the books that Crystal recommends, and I really hope that she enjoys the books I recommended too. I guess we'll have to see. Her video and channel will be linked down below. Make sure to check it out to find out like how she enjoyed the books I recommended to her. I hope she liked them. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, don't forget to click the like button, comment down below. Let me know if you've read any of these books. All of my social media is linked down below in the description, including my Goodreads, Instagram, and Twitter. Until next time, fellow readers, keep reading and living your best life.